Thank you so much. It's beautiful. And now it's time for our own Reverend Cathy Hough.
Thank you. That was a haunting song, Doc. That was so beautiful. Thank you. Now, I know that many of you remember that movie that came out in the 70s called Oh God. John Denver starred in that production, and he said that he had made this film because he felt that there was a message of truth in it. And he talked in an interview about one of his favorite scenes in the beginning, when his character Jerry is peacefully shaving one morning in front of the bathroom mirror, and he experiences a startling encounter with a strange figure that looks astonishingly like George Burns. And this figure appears in the mirror, and of course John Denver says, "Well, who are you?" And he receives the reply, "God." And of course, stunned by this answer, Jerry then asks, "What are you doing here? Why are you here now?" And God tells him, "Because I want everyone to know that I made this world to work." And Jerry responds, "Have you read the papers lately? It ain't working. There's war, there's hungry, there's hatred, there's homelessness." And God said patiently, "I've given you everything you need." Of course, Jerry's frustrated by this and says, "But we need help." And God replies, "That's why I gave you each other." Yeah. An African proverb reminds us that alone we can go faster, together we can go further. And as Janelle mentioned, our theme for October is Going Further Together. And our topic today is the divine community. So I know everybody here knows how important community building is, but what is meant by that term, divine community? In progressive religious circles, there have often been calls to build the beloved community, which is kind of a synonym. And this is a term that was coined by the early 20th century philosopher Josiah Royce. But the term became more familiar to everyone when the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King often spoke of his building as the beloved community. That was his ultimate goal, the building of the beloved community. As an early example, after the Montgomery bus boycotts, in speaking about the larger movement which they were building, Dr. King said, "The end is reconciliation. The end is redemption. The end is the creation of the beloved community." It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opponents into friends. And it is this love that will bring about a miracle in the hearts of men. Our goal is to create a beloved community. And this will require a qualitative change in our souls and a quantitative change in our lives. And according to the King Center, for Dr. King, this was not a lofty utopian goal. It was not to be confused with the rapturous image of the peaceable kingdom in which the lions and lambs coexist in idyllic harmony. But rather, the beloved community was for him, for Dr. King, a very realistic, achievable goal that could be attained when a critical mass of people committed to the global vision in which all people share in the wealth of the world, in which the standards of human decency do not allow racism, discrimination, poverty, hunger, and homelessness, and where peace with justice prevails over war and military conflict. Dr. King's vision of the beloved community can be looked at as a secularized version of what the Rabbi Jesus called the kingdom of God. When he preached about when he preached about practicing radical kindness and compassion and sharing a love that dares to transgress cultural and tribal divisions. So this vision, it seems lofty, it seems untenable in this world, in the light of what keeps showing up in our world today. But Centers for Spiritual Living upholds this ideal, and this is quoted from our evolutionary vision statement. we envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of life. A world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects us through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. And I will not deny this. I cling to this vision when those moments of fear and despair show up in my consciousness, because it's within the remembrance of our interconnectedness that I can return to my center and remain open to the guidance of what is mine to do when it seems as if I am paralyzed into a state of inaction. Buddhist teacher Sharon Salzberg reminds us that we are all aided by appreciating the good in our lives, the availability of beauty, the uplifting energy of community. We're nourished by being able to connect to something bigger, both in our personal lives and in viewing the world. In Buddhist teaching, it is called gladdening of the mind, creating an ease of heart that can accompany us in times of adversity or trauma. So we know this. We know that now more than ever, we need that gladdening the mind and easing of the heart that can be found within a divine community. I recall an important story that I have shared with you before, but it's a good one, and that's what stories are for. They're meant to be told. So this is the story of One Stick, Two Sticks, in which a dying chieftain calls all of his family to his bedside and proceeds to hand each one of his family members a stick. And then he instructs them, break this stick in two, which they all easily do. They all easily snap their sticks. And then he brings out a bunch more sticks. And he said, now take some of these, and I want you to make bundles of 2 or more sticks. Put them all together in bundles. And his family obeys, and they're holding their bundles of sticks. And after he's done this, he said, now I want you to break your bundle of sticks. Of course, none of them are able to do so. And the chieftain tells them, this is how it is with life. When we stand alone, we can be broken. But when we join together, like the bundles of sticks, we cannot be broken. Creating a divine community is all about tying those bundles of sticks together and recognizing the beauty in each individual stick while understanding the strength that endures and feeds us when we choose to join together as one. In the Book of Awakening, one of my favorite authors, Mark Nepo, writes, imagine that each of us is a spoke in the infinite wheel, and though each spoke is essential in keeping the wheel whole, no 2 spokes are the same. The rim of that wheel is our living sense of community, our family, our relationships, but the common hub where all spokes join is the center where all souls meet. So as I move out into the world, I live out my uniqueness, but when I dare to look into my core, I come upon the one common center where all lives begin. And in that center, we are one and the same. For mysteriously and powerfully, when I look deep inside, I look deep enough inside you, I find me. And when you dare to hear my fear in the recess of your heart, you recognize it as your secret that you thought no one else knew. And that unexpected wholeness that is more than each of us becomes common to all. That moment of unity is the atom of God. I get chicken skin when I think about that phrase, that powerful phrase, the atom of God. I think of that as that spark of divinity that is our core, that uniting thread of consciousness that constantly is nudging us towards unity. I think of our own CSL East Hawaii as a beloved or a divine community. And I see it as a living sanctuary where we honor in one another the confidence and the courage to release that which no longer supports our journey as we move forward to embrace something bigger, something greater. And in this space where I am me and you are you and we are all together cuckoo-ca-choo, there is a beautiful evolution that nudges us forward and pushes us beyond this moment into a new space of being, a more profound expression of the one loving source. It's what the Eastern communities refer to as a Sangha, which is the name for a community of individuals who are dedicated to creating and sustaining an environment that nurtures and supports reverence, mindfulness, and spirituality as a lifestyle. In The Art of Being, Dr. Dennis Merritt Jones writes, in Sangha, one of the primary elements created is a feeling of safety. Each one is respected, accepted, and loved as they are. It's a safe place to be who one is. In such an environment, it's amazing to witness each one as they unfold in their own unique spiritual nature with grace, elegance, and ease in their own time and space. When we add to this the elements of playfulness and seva, seva is a Sanskrit word for selfless service to others, we have a true spiritual community. We have a Sangha. And this is a good place to be. I think CSL East Hawaii is a good place to be, don't you? Yep. It's a Sangha. And it's my constant prayer that our divine community continues to be fueled and supported by the acceptance of new thoughts and new ways of being. Ram Dass said, we are all just walking each other home. And I want CSL to always be a place where this is evidenced, where we are always nurturing the seed that builds the critical mass that leads to the sustenance of our planet. Not just our center here, but our planet as a beloved community. Home is where we belong, and when we are at the center of this communion of love, all of us are blessed and fulfilled and strengthened. And you know, I have been blessed and fulfilled and strengthened and loved by this community since the day I first visited 18 years ago as a guest speaker. That was a transformational day that led to the amazing unfoldment of a new future, where one beloved spiritual community was left behind in California, and we were welcomed wholeheartedly into this new one. I've been reflecting a lot about this as I face the transition that's coming to me, a transition in which my role in this center is evolving to something different. And in some ways, I'm again stepping into the unknown and the opportunity to experience community in new and different ways. And Friday, I was sharing these memories with the two Karens who are here today. Yes, we let two Karens into the sanctuary, but we blessed them, and they're good Karens. We don't have any bad Karens in our Sangha. But, you know, I was having lunch with them, and I was recalling my very first visit to the center in 2003. And at that time, this building was a little spark, a little idea in the mind of God. And we were meeting at the Hough, the gathering place down the road. And of course, my first time at the church, I'm instantly charmed. Those of you who've been to the Hough know that they have the building has roll-up steel sides. And when they roll them up, it's an environment not as beautiful as ours, but an environment like this. And I was charmed. I was charmed by the outdoor open-air environment, by the sight and the sound and the smell of the rain coming down as the service, it was like a blessing as the service was proceeding. And then they were handing out little rattan fans, which I just found was so charming for some reason. Little did I know that that fateful day would lead to our relocation from California to Pune and the beginning of my new role as an assistant minister to Reverend Tagg. And I wish I could say it was an easy transition for me, but what I can say is that it was the members of this Sangha who surrounded and supported me with the loving acceptance that kept me planted here and helped me to grow and to evolve as a minister. I felt welcomed, I felt embraced, and I felt heard, and I still do. Center for Spiritual Living East Hawaii will always be a divine community to me, and that is what I want it to be for all of you. Because a divine community is much more than one person entering a physical or a digital space, and then another person entering the same area, leading to a group of encapsulated individuals sharing the same space. A divine community is not merely a gathering of individuals. Within a divine community, there is an almost alchemical reaction that happens among us. It's the synergy that reminds us of who and what we are capable of being and becoming, and keeps us sheltered when the storms of life rain down upon us. A beloved community bespeaks deep affection for the many over the one, but it also points to the quality and depth of our shared connections. The beloved community unfolds as a divine tapestry of truth, light, compassion, and love, all woven together with threads of hope and faith. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, said, "Love really is the fulfillment of the law of good. Love alone can heal the world and enable people to live together in unity and peace." And he also said in a different publication that compassion and caring are the ties that bind us together in mutual understanding and in the unified attempt to uncover the divinity within each of us. And it's in that unified attempt to uncover the divinity in each of us that creates a true Sangha. So there's a story. I always got a story. There's a story about a seminar that was well attended. There was a couple of hundred people there. And this seminar was all about maintaining physical and mental health. And at one point, the speaker told everybody that they were going to do an activity. And he handed each attendee one balloon and told them to write their name on it. Then the balloons were collected and moved into another smaller room. The participants were then asked to go into this room, and they were given 2 minutes to find their balloon, the balloon with their name on it. And as you imagine, chaos ensued. People were searching frantically for their balloons. They were pushing each other and running into each other and grabbing balloons and throwing them aside. And at the end of 2 minutes, nobody had found their own balloon. Then the speaker asked the participants to go back into the room and to just pick one balloon at random, look at the name, and return it to its owner. Within minutes, everyone had been reunited with their original balloon. The speaker then told the group, "This is what it's like when people are frantically searching for their own happiness in life. They push each other aside to get the things that they want, that they believe will bring them happiness. However, our happiness actually lies in helping other people and working together as a community." We've all been witness to what has been created and destroyed throughout all history, and today it seems even more so. But again, as Janelle said, that's because in an instant, what's happening on the other side of the world can be transmitted for us to see. So we've seen this. We've seen what happens, what's created and what's destroyed through living with the scarcity consciousness that pushes people to fight and compete for the acquisition of money or territory or just the need to be right. And as in the movie, Oh God, Jerry tells God, it ain't working. It ain't working and it will never work. So we have a choice every day. We have a choice to either succumb to divisiveness and despair or to become part of creating community in which people feel strengthened by a sense of belonging and emboldened by the love and support that is present. We can all recognize the truth that is found in the words of Dr. Holmes when he writes, "Love is the only final security in the universe. Love is the greatest healing power in the universe and the only thing that binds people together in a community of spirit." Think about that old story that we're all familiar with since we were children, when a mysterious stranger comes into town And he claims that he has a magical stone that you can cook soup with again and again. And of course, the townspeople are absolutely incredulous. But to prove it, he puts a pot of boiling water on and he puts the stone in it. And as he's watching the water boil for a while, he declares, you know, maybe some spices would help make it just a little bit better. And somebody runs to their home and gets some spices, comes back, adds it to the boiling water. And the bystanders remain fascinated. They're all staring at the boiling water. The stranger said, maybe some potatoes and some carrots would top it off really well. And somebody goes to get the carrots and the potatoes. And then the stranger says, but you know what? A bit of meat, some meat and some flour would just round off the experience really well. And so it goes. And so it goes on and on like that. And the villagers are amazed as this wonderful, fragrant soup is prepared. And they all have a great feast together, enjoying and celebrating the magical stone soup. In the words of Reverend Scott Aubrey, we all hunger in some way. We sometimes think that we have too little. We feel scarcity in our lives. We forget that we are not alone, that there is a vast reservoir of God's life and substance, and we all have ingredients to contribute. In living our lives and recreating the facets of our experience, we all contribute. In this spiritual community, we all add the love. We all add the humor. Some of us add the insight. Others of us add the wisdom, the creativity, the passion. We each add our ingredients into the soup and are all fed and nourished. We all have arms to wrap around each other, if only we could. So we are, a little bit more. In community, tremendous creativity happens. We see things created that no one of us can create alone. And if you need an example of this, just take a moment and look around at this gorgeous building, which could never have been created without the vision, the contributions, and the labor invested with great love by the members of this community. Sociologist and author Brené Brown tells us that a deep sense of loving and belonging is an irreducible need of all people. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. So, of course, our calling is to deepen our connections with one another now. When we welcome others, we extend ourselves to do the work of justice, peace, and compassion in the world. The divine community is established upon the rock of love that knows no bounds, but creates an everlasting bond in the heart and soul of humanity. When we're at home, we belong to one another enough to companion each other through the joys and sorrows of life. Let this place and this love that we declare be the measure of our faith as we continue to welcome and walk each other home. And so it is. Thank you.
Wow, that was beautiful.